Hello everybody, welcome back. We are moving on to the next lesson, subtracting integers. Again, integers are negative and positive whole numbers, -1, +1, -100, +100, 0, 5. Those are all examples of integers. We are now subtracting them. Just a quick reminder of the rules that we kind of talked about. I'm kind of do a shorthand real quick. So same signs, if it's the same signs, okay, we add, okay, and then we keep the signs, okay? My glare that bad? Let's see. That's not bad, okay. Sorry if the glare's kind of bad, I'm trying not to. Same signs keep, okay? So if it's different, okay, then you subtract, and then you take from the larger number. Okay, so larger number. So again, we're going to be using these rules still again while we're subtracting. Okay, it doesn't change. There's just one extra thing we'll need to add, but we'll do it at the end. Let's focus on what we're doing here by doing this. So an integer, let's say -3. -3 is an integer. We're going to subtract, okay, another integer, 4. Okay. The rules we had earlier still apply. This is one of the reasons why I really like using this, because there's other technical ways we can kind of go about it. And looking at this, and then when you're subtracting, you're actually adding the inverse, and it kind of gets into stuff like that, which we'll talk a little bit in a minute. But what I said earlier, last video, I'm sorry, about the sign in front. What's the sign on the 3? It's a negative. What's the sign on the 4? It's also a negative. Therefore, it's the same sign. What do we do with same signs? We add. So what is 3 plus 4? 7. And then what do we do when we add? We keep the sign. So they're both negative. 7's a negative. On this part of your summer work, your homework, if you will, it's the same thing. You need to tell me which one of these you used. Same signs or different signs. And again, we use same. So if you understood the first lesson or the first one about adding integers, subtracting integers is not going to be any different. There's just one special case, but we're going to keep moving into this. Let's think of another integer. Let's go with +4 minus, okay, we're going to take away 13. Okay, still subtracting integers. 4 is an integer, 13 is an integer. We're subtracting them. Now you need to look at the signs every single time. What are my signs? 4 is a positive. 13 is a negative. Okay? Now what you need to do here is you need to say, well, what are my signs? Different signs. So we're using different signs to subtract. So if you need to kind of write it somewhere, 13 take away 4, if you like counting fingers, whatever will kind of get you the answer. Okay? Let's do it this way. That becomes 13, 0, and we are left with, is that a 9? I believe it's a 9. It is a 9. Okay, that helps. 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. Oh, I took off 4. So that's 9. However you go about doing it, counting up from 4, whatever it is, our answer is 9. Okay? Different sign subtract. We subtracted. Now we're trying to find out what do we do about our sign. We take the sign from the larger number. Which is larger, 13 or 4? 13 is larger. What's the sign? Negative. This is a -9. Okay? Different signs. This is really all the work on these two assignments that I'm looking for is this right here, okay? Kind of do the work. If you need to write something else somewhere, then do that. We're not using calculators. I know I'm not at home with you, but it's not gonna help you if you use your calculator, because coming to class in August, you're sitting here in front of me, we're not using calculators. On the school supply list, I do have you guys getting a calculator. I believe there are a couple of lessons here and there, or a chapter, in the school year where the calculator we will be using, but calculators are needed in some of the science classes. You will be needing it in algebra and geometry. So get the calculator that's on the papers. It's a certain type of, I don't have one on me right now. I'll probably put it in my next video. But a certain scientific calculator that I use, that I want everybody to use, get that one. It's at Walmart. 10, 15 bucks, something like that. But that one will get you all the way through all your science classes and your math classes all the way up to geometry honors, I believe, or algebra 2. Algebra 2, I think it is. So I mean, you still have a couple of years you can use it. So get that one and then you'll be good. Back up here. All right, so different signs. Again, different signs subtract, we get the -9. If it helps, you want to confirm, you start on here, you can use a number line. You start at 4. Well, if you start at 4 and you go 13 to the left because you're subtracting 13, you're going to be in a negative number and we have a -9, okay? However, you kind of need to do it to kind of get through it, but these are kind of the 2 examples of subtracting integers. There is a 3rd example, and I'm going to show you that now. Actually, no, yeah, we did, okay. We did those 2, so let's do the 3rd case, okay? What if we have 3 minus -4? This is going to be like a 3rd rule we're going to add, and it's when you see this, okay? Minus a negative, it needs to kind of trigger something in our brain. Last one we had a plus, so if it looks like a plus, a negative, that's fine, you're adding. Adding doesn't do anything, it's a -4, you're good. But if this was a minus sign right here, subtraction, when you're subtracting a negative, you can think of it on a number line. If you're on a number line, okay, and we have here, let's say this is like a 2, okay? When you're adding numbers, you go to the right. When you subtract numbers, you're going to the left, okay? We dealt earlier, right here, you're subtracting 13, so you're going to the left. This one up here, you're subtracting 4, you're going to the left. Last lesson, I'm gonna make this a plus again, we're adding a -4. Well, when you're adding, you're going to the right, but when you're adding a negative, you're actually just subtracting, you're going to the left. So it's going to be the opposite when you have a minus a negative. So minus means we're going to subtract, but a negative is going to be the opposite direction. So we're actually adding in this case. The textbook and other textbooks refer to adding the inverse. When you subtract the negative, you're going to add, so it turns into addition. The inverse, what's the inverse? What's the opposite of -4? +4. So you're adding the inverse. In class, I'll refer to it sometimes slash and dash. Some other teachers use that kind of terminology, slash. So when you slash the minus, it becomes a positive. And then you put a dash, okay, slash and dash, it turns them both into positive. Some students like to see it, and they see it as, well, if I have this, it actually almost looks like a big plus sign. I have some students that kind of do like this, and they make it a plus, and it's 3 + 4. However you want to do it. When you see a minus, a negative, so 2 little lines in between like that, this becomes adding the inverse. You're actually adding here, okay? So this becomes 3 + 4. What I want us to do on our homework, on our work, okay? On these problems here, and they do have some in this one, subtracting integers. Minus -4. I want you to rewrite this, okay? Like this, 3 + 4. This is showing me on your work that you know that when you see this, we're subtracting a negative, we're actually adding. We're adding the inverse. That becomes a 3 + 4. Okay? Now our rules apply up here. Same signs add. Take the sign from a larger number. I'm sorry, you keep the sign. Well, the signs are positive, so you say it with a positive. Okay? And then on here, you can still do the same thing, same signs. If you do not see this and you're going to treat it as oh, well, that's a negative and that's a positive. Yes, that's true. However, you're subtracting a negative. So you need to first see this. On the last lesson on adding integers, this was a positive, this was a plus, and that's fine. Then that is a negative, but when subtracting a negative, those become a plus sign. Okay, it becomes a positive, and then you're just adding them. We need to keep that in mind. Okay, so if we want to add a third little saying here, I'll add it in blue since it's a new one. Okay, so when you are subtracting a negative, when you're subtracting, I'm shorthanding here, subtracting a negative, okay, you're subtracting a negative, add the inverse, okay? This just, and then if whatever kind of you want to do, remind yourself, it just becomes addition. You're adding the inverse. Again, you're adding, this turns into addition, and you're adding the inverse. The inverse of a -4 is a +4, so you're just adding 4. We'll do some more. I'm going to focus on this one now because I feel like we've done enough of these, hopefully. I'm going to be focusing on this for the rest of this lesson here. All right, so let's take these down. Actually, I probably could have converted them. And again, my board is not going to erase well. So let's get some wipes. Sorry if you can hear, I don't know if you can hear the thunder or not. There's like a little bit of a storm passing through outside. So sorry if the microphone is picking that up. All right. It will pass, it will pass. Okay, so there's our rules and things that we're working with. Let's do some more while I wait for the board to dry. All right, so I'm gonna draw a little line there, okay? These are our rules that we're using here, okay? And we're gonna start with the examples over here. So first one, let's go with -5. I take it back. Let's do a +5. 5 minus -3. Okay? So this is similar to the other one. You can look at it and say, well, that's a positive, that's a negative. Oh, different sign, subtract. However, okay, again, minus a negative. This needs to be throwing flags. Something doesn't look right. Something's going on here. When you have a minus and negative, when you're subtracting a negative, add the inverse, okay? Adding the inverse. Now it's 5 plus a +3. Well, that's just 5 plus 3. So remember, on your homework, on the schoolwork, I'd rather you guys not write, in that spot. I'd rather you just rewrite it and then do the math. Well, look, same signs add, right? Same signs add. And then you keep the sign. Well, it's positive, so it stays positive. Same signs. Okay, let's do another one. -7 minus -12. -7 minus -12. You might get to a point where you say, well, look, we're just adding all of them. So what's 7 and 12, 19, we're done. That's not going to be the answer. Let's take it one step at a time. Don't ever take a problem and just assume something and jump into it. You really need to kind of take your time and work each problem out. First off, this is negative. This is negative. However, we're subtracting a negative. Okay, over here, when you're subtracting a negative, you add the inverse. So, -7 doesn't change. What we're changing is just this part right here, adding the inverse. So we're adding a +12, so add 12. Now we can use these two rules up here, okay? Different signs, this is a negative, this is a positive. So different signs subtract. 7 and 12, you can count on your hands, whatever you need to do. It is a 5. What's the larger number? It's a 12. 12 is positive, our answer is positive. And then we found this out by different signs. Okay? When it comes to your tests and quizzes and things, you're not gonna have to write these on here. This is just because I'm giving you the answers for the homework. I need some sort of shown work. So this is showing your work, and you have to rewrite it. And then this is showing your work by telling me how you got that answer. Okay, not every problem this whole summer is gonna be like this where you have to explain yourselves. This is just kind of a rare one because there's really only like one step and then you're done. So again, I'll be giving you guys answers. If you haven't kind of seen already, you're gonna have answers on the thing, okay? In the paper or in the PDF file that I'll be sending out. So you have all the answers. So if you just write all the answers and email that to me and say, here, I'm done, you're not going to end up receiving the credit for it because I already gave you the answers. So this is how you show your work, okay? Let's do one more of those. Let's go -21 minus -3. Okay, same thing. Okay, we're gonna look at this and we're going to determine, what are we doing? Are we adding, subtracting? Well, we're subtracting a negative. Again, that should set up some sort of alarm for you and tell you, well, that's not right. There's a rule for that. If it was adding a negative, that's okay, but this is subtracting a negative. When you're subtracting a negative, you add the inverse. So let's rewrite it. The first number never changes. It was a +5, +5, +7, +7, -21, -21. First number doesn't change. What changes is the sign on the second one, okay? These are called terms. So this -7 is a term, +12 is a term. Terms are divided by, and we'll get into this in a minute and then in the next video, but terms are kind of cut up by addition or subtraction signs. So there's 2 terms here, 2 terms here, 2 terms here. So your first term doesn't change. It's the term that has the minus the negative that changes. Our 3 stays because it's adding the inverse. So we're going to change this to addition. We're going to, the inverse, the opposite of a -3 is a +3. So that becomes that. Okay? Now we go back to these rules over here. Same signs, different signs. These are different. So we're going to subtract. Take 21 and take away, so we're going to subtract 3 from 21. 21, 20, 19, 18. So there's our 3s, we took away 18. All right, now we take the sign from the larger number. 21 is larger than 3, 21 is negative. Answer is negative. Okay, and we found that out because we use different signs. Okay, hope that helped. I'm going to put up a couple example problems you guys need to work through on your own and put the answers, answer the answers for me. So let's do that. Oof, sorry about that. That is not looking so good. All right. Good. Okay. So, while that dries, let's get some examples going here. All right. Let's go. All right, subtracting integers. 3 is an integer, 11 is an integer. So we're going to subtract them. So we're going to look at the signs in front of them, okay? Take your time, find out what this answer is, and go ahead and tell me what it is. Type it in a little box. 3 minus 11. All right, so what you should have done, you should have looked at these and said, well, I'm not subtracting a negative, so this one doesn't apply, so that one's out. So we can just focus on these 2 up here. The 3 is positive, the 11 is negative. Those are different signs. So what do we do with different signs? We subtract them. So you take 11 and 3, you subtract them. 11, 10, 9, 8. Okay, we got 8. Take the sign from the larger number. That's what this is here. Well, the larger number is 11. 11 is negative. Final answer is -8. Okay? And then again on the work, we need to write different signs. Okay? Let's do another one. -5. Is there no space there? That's a -5. -5 minus 21. All right? Find it out. Let's see what you get. All right, so what you should have done is you should have saw that this was a -21 and this is a -5. Again, these are kind of breaking them up into terms. If you were to ask to list the terms are -5 and -21. They're both negative, same signs, add. So 21 and 5, you should be able to do it in your head, count on your hands if you need to, and we get 26. Okay, so we have 26. Now the rule says we keep the sign. Well, they're both negative, so we're going to keep the negative. And then we're done. Okay, same signs. All right, let's do another one. Let's do -12 minus a -3. See what you get. All right, so what you should have done here, before you even started looking at everything, you should have noticed right here, minus a negative. Set off some sort of alarms or whatever you have going on saying, I'm subtracting a negative. There's a rule for that. What is that rule? Okay, having that rule written down somewhere until you learn it is the best place to have it. So here it is, this is the one written in blue. When you subtract a negative, you're adding the inverse. So this becomes addition, and you find the inverse of -3, which is a +3. So rewrite that. Your first term stays the same, -12. Add the inverse. The, again, addition and a -3, the inverse of a -3 is a +3. So there's our +3. So adding 3. Now we look over here to find out which one we're using. These are different. So different signs subtract. 12 minus 3 gives us 9. And then you take the sign from the larger number, which is 12. So, or 12 is larger, which is negative, so we have negative 9. And we did different signs. Okay? That's how you do that for this lesson. I hope that makes sense. I hope this is enough for you guys to kind of get through and understand. Now, again, if you want to you can confirm these answers by looking at the answer key. If you want to think about it, where am I at? I'm at negative 12 on a number line. So here's negative 12 over here, and I'm going to add 3. So I'm actually going to be getting a larger number. Negative 9 is larger than negative 12. We've done all the greater than, less than signs, so we know which is greater, which is less than in this case. Negative 9, negative 12, and 3. You can put them on number lines if it helps, but learn these, know these. This will be helpful throughout the summer, and as you get into pre-algebra, algebra, geometry, algebra 2, I mean, you're going to be using these kind of rules. If you can get them in here, you should be able to just kind of start flying through your work, okay? All right, thank you guys, and I will see you in the next one.